And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our partners at Spalding and Two Revolutions, Dr. Glenn Beatty and Adam Rubin.
Excellent. Thank you, Maddie. Good morning, everybody. This is the point where if we were together, we'd say good morning, but nice to see faces and names. I'm going to share my screen. And let me, while I'm doing that, have you all introduce yourselves. Kristen and Glenn, why don't you guys just introduce yourselves if you can? Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Kristen Harris. I'm the chair of the College of Education at Spalding University, and I'm really excited to be able to share this partnership with you all and appreciate JCPS's help in hosting these sessions. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Glenn Beatty. I'm an assistant professor at Spalding University, and I also serve as a director of advanced programs. So I oversee teacher leader, which we're talking about today, school counselor, and school principal. Prior to coming to Spalding, I was an assistant superintendent in Jefferson County Public Schools, spent 27 years there, and very excited about the opportunities that Spalding has to provide unique learning opportunities for JCPS teachers and leaders.
Excellent. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Glenn. My name is Adam Rubin. I am a founder and a partner at Two Revolutions, which I'll explain in a moment. And we are really excited for the partnership. We've been in partnership in various ways with JCPS since 2018. And we're really excited for this partnership with Spalding and to offer what we think is, and what we have experienced, a number of years of experience now, a really innovative, cutting edge graduate program that can kind of really push your learning forward, really help shift things positively and progressively in your buildings, and also support a move toward rank change. So, you know, all of those things are true, and we're excited to dig in. So what I would do is, given our format, Zoom, which all of us are painfully accustomed to at this point, I'd really encourage you guys to hop in the chat with any questions. Maybe Glenn and Kristen can monitor while I'm talking and stop me at any time. And you all had permission to stop me, but Kristen and Glenn might be power stoppers of me. All right.
I'm going to interrupt real quick and let everyone
Please.
know that another deeper learning resource teacher, another contact on the project, Jo McKim, is here as well. So she and I will do our best to monitor the chat and help everyone's questions get answered. Sorry to interrupt, Adam.
No, please. You and Jo are also power stoppers. So here's what we're going to work to cover today. We know lots of you have individual questions, so we're actually going to start in a few minutes with some questions just to kind of harvest your questions in the chat. But if we have our druthers, we want you to kind of leave here with a deeper understanding of, like, what is this program and what are the objectives of it? What does success look like when you complete this program? What are kind of a detailed set of program features? And then what are the requirements that Spalding and JCPS have for your participation? So I think those are our objectives. And then the most important objective is you leave here with questions answered, or at least questions flagged, so we can get back to you through Maddie and Jo to kind of just start building an FAQ so you get your questions answered. All right. So I like quotes. I like this quote, and this quote really is the essence of what we're aiming at here. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the people to gather wood, divide the work, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. So the objective of sharing this at the beginning of this presentation about a really cutting edge program is to say, this is really focused on a learner-driven experience. This is focused on empowering teachers and leaders to really drive their learning experience and help shift things fundamentally within themselves, but within their classroom, within their buildings, and ultimately within the system. So this is all about educator agency, educator ownership, and creating a learner-driven experience. I think I'll say at the beginning, if you want to take tests, write papers, and regurgitate information, this is not the right program. Okay, so this, I believe there's no photos of Socrates, but this is the best likeness we have of Socrates. So I want to give you a minute, and it's a little rhetorical right now, but any questions you're coming with, I want you to put them in the chat right now. There will be ongoing questions as we keep talking, but we really want to harvest your questions up front, so we can kind of focus our energies in this conversation most efficiently, because your time is very valuable. So take a minute in the chat. Okay, so that's an open response. Kristen, I'm looking at you and Glenn and Maddie. Are we getting some? Or?
Nothing's popped up yet, but
Yeah,
we're monitoring.
Okay.
I'm not yet seeing anything either. Yeah, but we'll keep an eye. Oh, there's
Okay,
some.
awesome. All right, so as they come in, you guys will give me a heads up on where to kind of focus, but we're going to start just kind of high level, and then we'll get to all the program details, if that sounds good. Okay, so program overview. So first and foremost, who the hell are you and why are you here? So I'm a founder and a partner at Two Revolutions. Two Rev is a national education design lab. We have been working for 13 years in about 42 states with hundreds of districts, lots of state agencies, and lots of higher ed partners. And our whole focus is helping folks build more learner-centered and equitable schools and systems. And that's what we do all over the country. One of the key strategies we use to do that is really transforming educator and leader capacity. So to that vein, starting 4 years ago, we started building really innovative graduate programs with different higher ed partners. We have run this specific program for hundreds of educators in New Hampshire, Iowa, Colorado, and in Kentucky. And we have a newer partnership with Spalding for the past year that we're really excited to offer you. So we bring a wealth of experience around instruction, assessment, and leadership innovation. And we've kind of distilled it all into this program. So obviously we can share a lot more on us. And when I stop talking, I'll put our URL in the chat so you can learn more about us. We are bringing the content, we're bringing all of the adjuncts. These are kind of national and regional experts in student-centered, equitable, and competency-based education. So that's Two Rev's role here. This program is really focused on building two things. First of all, this idea of a vanguard of change agents in your district. So working with the great partners at JCPS, at the district level, a lot of systems leaders, Maddie, Joe, Alan Young, and a lot of other folks, there's a desire to build folks who have the knowledge, skills, and mindsets to help drive transformation in classrooms and within buildings. The ideal in this program is you are not a singleton, you are part of a team from a building, and you have permission and support from your building leadership, and that's a key part of this program as well. So we're working with the assistant superintendents to ensure that anyone who signs up, your leader is also signed up for something lighter weight that has them fully aware of this work and really able to be supportive of you, because we've seen when we've run this elsewhere that the best way to drive change is you individually, and then to support you so you can begin to implement these changes in your classroom and in your building. So the core objectives are really to kind of build this vanguard of change agents throughout the district, and then build capacity in each of you through kind of deeper instruction and assessment knowledge and skills and leadership skills. And you'll see that, we think about leadership with a lowercase L. It's not role-based leadership. It's from where you sit. How do you enact leadership? There are 4 things that describe this program really well. This program seeks to model a competency-based learning experience. So we do that in a couple of ways. One is this is not a seat time-based learning experience. So on day 1 of term 1, if you're enrolled, you will see the course and you will see the summative task. If you are ready to go to the summative task, there's an opportunity to do that right away. So it's not a seat time experience. It's really based on your knowledge and skills, you can kind of assess as quickly as you're able. The other way this models a competency-based experience is, and I said it a few minutes ago, this is about not regurgitating information, but about showcasing what you know and can do. So every course asks you to kind of put forward a body of evidence, like what are artifacts that show that you are competent around this skill set, and then explain that. So it's a really different model. So those are the two ways this is competency-based. This is really learner-centered. So there are options that you have within courses, with between courses, like different options that the district wanted to make sure you had. The experience is driven by you. You set the cadence. There's a pacing suggestion at the beginning of every course, but you are the driver. And that's really critical to our entire philosophy. This is about collaborative and individual learning. So lots of the courses have individual assignments, and the leadership courses have collaborative assignments. So there's an expectation that both skill sets and both mindsets are critical to your workplace, and we want to model those in this work. And then, you can talk to, there were 38 people in the first Kentucky cohort, I think 25 some odd in JCPS that started this work with us in 2019. And this idea of authentic and relevant, another word I would use here is job embedded. So this is really about not giving you extra work, but really anchoring kind of what problems are you trying to solve in your classroom or in the learning setting you work in or in your boardroom. Like there are a lot of principals who've taken this program. Like, what are the problems you're trying to solve and how do you use this coursework to solve the problems? So every task in here kind of is something you can and should be doing on the job and in your role. We think these four things set this learning experience apart and create a really kind of cutting edge and high value learning experience for all of you. All right. This is a Master of Education in Teacher Leadership with an emphasis on competency-based learning. It's a 30 credit program. Takes approximately 10 months to a year, and I'll show you some details around the timeline to complete. All coursework, as I said a minute ago, is competency-based. So really focused on high quality and high level performance assessments that measure your mastery of the program competencies. The learning is roughly 80% synchronous. This is, again, in a non-seat time-based learning experience, these are fungible numbers, but the idea is approximately 80% of the coursework is online and asynchronous. 20% is synchronous and virtual, or synchronous and virtual and in person. So, what we strive for in the overall 30 credits is 3 face-to-face learning experiences. And then every course will have synchronous teach-ins that will almost always be virtual, given that you're all in different buildings across the city. So that is an overview. Let me stop there, and I'm looking at my my lead stoppers. Kristen, Glenn, Maddie, any questions coming up in the chat that you want to kind of give voice to right now or direct me to kind of double down on?
I think any questions that are coming up right now are with regard to the certification and completion that they are going to be coming up in a future slide. So I think we just put a pin in it until we get to those slides.
That sounds great. Thank you. So program goals, we stated this a minute or two ago, but we want you to be proficient, and I'm going to show you these competencies in a few minutes, around kind of learner-centered competency-based instruction, learner-centered competency-based assessment, and then leadership to navigate the change necessary to move instruction and assessment in that direction. So that's really what the program goals are for graduates. A few years ago, The artist formerly known as Prince, the organization formerly known as iNicole. They're now called Aurora. Some of you know it, some of you might not know it, but it's a leading national organization that focuses on student-centered, competency-based learning. They came up with a core definition and 7 principles that undergird what it means to be competency-based. We, rather than creating from scratch, which we had done prior to the 2019 definition, we've adopted their 7 principles and really focused them on our portrait of a graduate. So a successful completer of this program will really understand each of these areas as it relates to instruction, assessment, and kind of equity, a more equitable system. So kind of empowering students to make daily decisions, assessment that's meaningful and empowering for learners, this idea of timely differentiated support based on individual learning needs. Students progress based on evidence of mastery, not seat time. Again, mirrored in this program and in your learning experience. Students learn actively using different pathways and varied pacing, mirrored in this program. Strategies to ensure equity for all students are embedded in the culture, structure, and pedagogy of schools. And then there are rigorous common expectations for learning. And this is where the program really digs into competency frameworks, the difference between competencies and standards. So you understand all of the architecture for kind of high quality, progressive, learner-centered environments. So in order to realize this portrait, we've set up this competency framework. So in the following few minutes, I'm going to unpack the teaching and learning competencies, the skills and dispositions, and the leadership competencies. And then we'll crosswalk that to the courses. So you really get a sense of like, what will I be learning in this program? So learner agency is at the heart of your classroom and needs to be at the heart of your buildings. So there are a number of courses on understanding, metacognition and reflective practices to empower learners to own their learning. The assessment competencies really look at a formative to summative assessment continuum, where things like feedback loops, things like performance assessments, and things like student-driven assessment, so student exhibitions, portfolio defense, and student-led conferencing are really kind of dug into in depth, and assignments are really challenging you to experiment with these in your classroom or elevate your practice to the next level. So a lot of deep work on assessment. There's a course on personalized instruction, and there's a lot of kind of focus on personalized learning and personalized instruction. How do you vary pace? How do you meet individual learners where they are? Lots of this work is focused on mastery-based. So how do we use curriculum against defined learning progressions to ensure that kids move on when ready, but not until ready? Authentic instruction. I feel like we use so much language in our field, and it's lovely and also problematic. So when we say that, we're really talking about deeper learning. We're talking about project-based learning. We're talking about problem-based learning. So the coursework will help you understand how to design, facilitate, and assess high-quality, authentic learning experiences. There's a dedicated course on culturally responsive, student-centered learning, but there's also a thread throughout that is really looking at anti-biased, anti-racist. What are the structures and cultures that keep inequity in place, and how do we dismantle those? And then there's a focus on transparent learning, and transparent learning in the context of this work is really focused on competency frameworks and really understanding. We've got one of the foremost leaders in the country who teaches this course on competency frameworks and understanding what they are. How do I use them? What's a progression? How do I make meaning of it? How does this relate to the standards? What does grading and reporting look like? So how do I communicate more effectively and transparently with students and their families? So these are a set of teaching and learning competencies, and against each of these, there is a progression of developing, proficient, and leading. So you'll really you'll have clarity right up front, and this gets to the transparent learning piece about like, what is this? What does success look like? And the goal here is getting everyone to proficiency. Some of you will exceed proficiency, and that's awesome. And you'll move into kind of a leading realm where you can start modeling this and you can start teaching this to your colleagues in your buildings. Leadership competencies. So we focus on 5 leadership competencies. And I said this before, and I'm going to repeat some things, so I apologize, but I want to emphasize some points. Leadership is not a job. It's an expectation for everyone in the system. And that's our worldview. So first and foremost, you will excel at the competency of being able to make the case for competency-based ed for student-centered learning. So there's a dedicated course called the What and Why of competency-based education that really arms you with the ability to make the argument to your colleagues, to your students, to your families about like why this matters, based in research and based in practice. That also really anchors the equity argument. Like competency-based education is one of the best strategies to concretely move toward a more equitable classroom and building. So all of that is embedded in being able to make the case for student-centered competency-based learning. There's a course on visionary leadership. Like, what is the importance of a vision? It is existential to your classroom, to your building, to your system. So this is really to understand the power of vision and how to support and kind of help others understand when there's a vision and how to engage key community stakeholders. All of this work would be for naught if we couldn't effectively lead change. So there's a course and a learning experience around how do you move this as a teacher leader, as a systems leader, how do you move your colleagues toward a more student-centered, equitable instruction and assessment environment. So there's a course that focuses deeply on creating a culture of innovation and giving you some skills around adaptive leadership. There's a course on the infrastructure for this, for competency-based education. So what's the role technology plays? What's the role that schedule plays? What's the role of these structures and this infrastructure? So there's a course that digs deep on what needs to be in place to move this work at scale. And then there's a course called Capacity to Transform, and it really focuses on what does personalized competency-based adult learning, educator learning look like? And this has been really powerful. This roster is really powerful and empowers teachers to take leadership roles in their building, ultimately. And that's a core objective here. And then finally, there's a set of skills and dispositions. So if each of the former teaching and learning competencies and leadership competencies are verticals, so there are courses, there are learning experiences, there are assessments, there's a cross-cutting set of skills and dispositions that our adjunct team is looking for. And then there's a summative capstone that's really a defense of learning, a presentation of learning, a celebration of learning. And our team is always looking for you moving in terms of your learning orientation, in terms of your equity orientation, and then in terms of your ability to successfully collaborate. So those are things that continually come up. They're continually kind of assessed to move the needle, because we think these mindsets, these skills and dispositions are essential to empowering you as student-centered learning, leaders in your building and in your system. All right, that is a lot of information. I'm going to check back in with my colleagues to see if it's at all helpful to stop and kind of go deeper any place.
Right. So Adam, one question that came up was with regard to what does an actual course look like? I know you mentioned the 80-20, and we do know that it is a graduate program at Spalding. So when we do issue a degree at the completion of 30 hours, but what would a typical course look like for an individual? How much reading would they be doing? What types of work would they be doing in those courses?
Thank you, Glenn. It's a great question. So we've got a map in here of a fall term start and then a spring term start. I'm going to hover over those for a second so you can kind of internalize the dates, but these are the titles of the courses. So this gives you a sense of translating, those competencies into a next level of detail. So each of these boxes on this screen is a course. So those competencies, those teaching and learning and leadership competencies translate really concretely into these courses. So that's one step. The other kind of important detail here is ensuring that you have a sense of the course load. So each of these courses is online learning experience. There will be an upfront synchronous kickoff where there'll be, typically it's a 90-minute to 2-hour seminar led by the faculty to introduce you to the competencies, to unpack the assessment. So again, if you're ready to go there right away, more power to you, and to begin to deliver kind of a first learning experience, which will go deep on some of the core concepts. There's a series of read, watch, and listens. So there's a series of kind of learning opportunities that happen throughout this online experience. So there are reports, and there are blog posts, and there are artifacts, and there's a lot of use of video to showcase different practices. And then there are formative checkpoints, and the formative checkpoints are for you, and your instructor will absolutely give you formative feedback in each module. So for instance, in a body of evidence course, you will be schooled in kind of what is a student exhibition look like? What are the concepts behind it? How would I teach it? What's a student-led conference? What does it look like? How would I teach it? What's portfolio defense? Again, same logic. So there will be kind of artifacts. There will be examples from other kind of successful schools around the country. There'll be videos of the practice. There'll be readings on the practice. And then there'll be a bounce pass to you to try it out and reflect. And every learning experience ends with a summative task. So every learning experience ends with a culminating performance task that is, apply this in your context, try this in your context, and reflect on what worked, what didn't work, reflect on some of the concepts in actual practice in your classroom or in your building. So I hope that gives you a sense of, it doesn't give you a sense of the amount of time. That's so different for every person. I think something on the order of, a couple hours a week, for some learners is sufficient. For some learners, they spend 5-7 hours a week kind of digesting and practicing. It really is so individualized. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of a deeper sense.
I think the one thing I would add to that is from looking at the coursework, interacting this spring, there are two particular pathways for a candidate in this program or a student in the class. Would be, first, I'm a classroom teacher who's actually delivering instruction, and the second option would be I am a teacher leader. Instructional coach, someone like that who provides support. So there's some choice with regard to how some of those formative tasks are completed, depending upon what your role in your school is. So it's very, very job embedded, related to the work that's going on in your building with regard to specifically practicing these skills and dispositions that you're learning from the coursework.
Excellent. Thanks, Glenn.
And of the questions that I've captured, some of them are Spalding specific, some of them are certification related, and there are some that are kind of timeline related, which I will go over the timelines for submitting your application and when you can expect to hear on that at the end. Would you guys like to discuss some of those certification related questions at near the end, or would you like to pause and do that now?
Well, we do have a slide a little later that talks about that. That might be a good spot for us to stop and sort of talk through that, if that's okay.
Perfect. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds great. And let me move a little quicker through this, and we can always come back to it. And Maddie, I'm assuming this presentation can be shared as an artifact with folks, so they can go deeper on any of the program components if those are open questions. Awesome.
We have another info session tomorrow afternoon. And after that info session concludes, we'll be sharing the materials that were shared in addition to the recording with everyone, and you're welcome to share that with your colleagues that might be interested and may have been unable to attend. That way, all of the information is there for everyone.
Excellent, thank you. So aside from kind of giving course titles on this slide and the following slide, as you digest it, it gives you a sense of 6 weeks with roughly 10 days in between is the cadence of this work. So the first 15 credits are covered between August and the end of January 2022. For folks who are continuing for the full master's, the rank change, there's an additional 15 credits to take you deeper. And that's term 4, term 5, and term 6. And then there's the capstone, as we mentioned earlier, which is a culminating defensive learning. So that gives you a sense of the arc from a time standpoint, the duration of the term, 6 weeks with 10 days in between, and how the 15 and 30 credits breaks. And this is just the same logic, the same course design, the same experience design, but starting in January. So what we're imagining is up to 3 cohorts of 30 plus people beginning in the fall. And if you're more interested in beginning in the winter, spring, there's an option, and there will be an option, which will still finish during 2022.
And Adam, one question did come up with regard to the option 1 and option 2 on the term start. You want to touch on that real quick?
Say more. The question is, what are the options?
For example, on this slide, during the second 15 hours, a candidate, you would have the option of either taking introduction to culture responsive student-centered learning or LCC relationships, so you'll be able to take a look at both of those courses and choose one or the other during your second 15 hours of completing the program.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And the LCC, just so the acronyms aren't confusing, is learner-centered culture. So we've got a whole battery of courses on learner-centered culture. Some focus on disposition, some focus on relationships. A lot of the focus is on pedagogical approaches, which is baked into a lot of the other courses. Okay, this is largely redundant or enforcing. I'm going to use enforcing. So it reinforces a lot of what we've just shared. So each term, 6 weeks. This is really focused on modeling a competency-based and deeper learning experience for you, individual and collaborative. There are Spalding 2 Revolutions faculty who will be teaching the courses and really coaching you through the content. And there'll be an additional coach who's there kind of to provide student support. So if you have any administrative questions throughout, there's a dedicated person for your cohort. All of this culminates in a capstone defense, which all of you are familiar with, kind of the 5, 8, and 12 defenses. So we've been using kind of defenses of learning for a long time. It's a really powerful learning experience as a way to really synthesize your learning across the program. And then, we believe strongly and we choose partners, and we're excited for Spalding as a partner because this shouldn't cost an arm and a leg. It should be really cost effective. So I applaud our JCPS partners for kind of recognizing that and wanting to incent kind of high quality professional learning for all of you, defraying the cost of the program. And then the program is just kind of, when we look nationally or even in the state, it's really reasonably priced, and we'll get to the price in a second. Capstone defense. So for those of you interested, I want to kind of honor your questions and your time, but each of these pulls from a student from this program, and it's a video clip of something with their permission that shows their portfolio defense, their kind of their defensive learning, and they're so rich. I often facilitate these or sit in on them, and I'm just amazed at the progress from August to the following summer. Like, folks really grow in themselves and they grow in their buildings, and these are a chance to showcase that learning in front of an authentic audience. We encourage you strongly to invite, your principals will be there. If you're in a building, district leadership will be there. You can invite colleagues and friends. Like, this is really intended to be a celebration of your learning. The program is priced, and Glenn, I feel like this might be off by $150. Is that right?
So we know that the currently the plan is for Jefferson County to pay for the first half of for the first 15 of the program. So really, it's about $6,000 off. So really, the out-of-pocket cost, Jefferson County picks up the first 15, and you as a candidate pick up the second 15. It's about between $6,000 and $6,100, which that would be.
Okay. So
and this, if I could offer just a detail, we've gotten this question around that funding piece. So like Dr. Beatty said, JCPS is fully funding the first 15 hours. That's going to cost JCPS $6,000 per participant. So if that says anything about our commitment to this shift, I mean, we're really putting our money where our mouth is on this. But the other part of that a lot of participants have asked about is, do we have to front this cost to Spalding and get reimbursed? No, JCPS is paying Spalding directly. So the first 15 hours is of no cost to JCPS educators at all.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Maddie. And thank you, Glenn. Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. In the 400 versus 405, I know it's a tiny detail, but let's make sure that is reflective, because 6,000 makes me think that's 400 per credit hour. So Glenn, is it 400 or 405?
It'll be 405 for the second.
Okay.
For the second. Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay. So on this slide, let's update it to kind of reflect the 6,000 and change for the masters in rank 1, out of pocket
Right.
for participants.
Right. Yep.
All right. So I'm going to pass it over if there are no more kind of programmatic questions. So Maddie,
to jump in really quickly. First, hi everyone, Joe McKim. I'm keeping my camera off because I don't have internet and my phone is not trustworthy. There was a question in the chat around what does JCPS expect in return for paying that $6,000 for you to take the first 15 hours. And there is an agreement that you'll be asked to sign that says that you're going to stay in the district for 3 years. It does not have any parameters around staying in an AIS school or Title I or anything like that. We're just asking you to stay in the district and to share your learning within JCPS. We expect you, if you're part of this program, to become a part of that vanguard of change agents. It's not for you to just take and keep in your classroom. It's for you to really help make the shift across the district. So that's what we're going to be looking for. So there will be that agreement component. Maddie, did I miss anything there?
Just to illustrate a little bit further what sharing your learning could look like, it could mean leading professional learning sessions at our Deeper Learning Symposium or throughout the year, but it also could mean something that our cohort 1 participants are doing, which is serving on some district decision-making committees. The people that are involved in this program and have this training and this expertise are kind of the best positioned to help us figure out how to make this shift on various levels, classroom-based, school-based, district-based. And so we're empowering our cohort 1 participants to help us make decisions and plan what this shift looks like, determine what kind of supports folks need to make this shift, and really help us build it from the ground up. So in summary, we're asking you to complete the program, stay in the district for 3 years in any certified capacity, and help us make the shift in JCPS.
Excellent. Thank you guys very much for clarifying. Glenn, I don't know if you want to take this one and begin to unpack some of the program requirements.
Right. So, yeah, so in addition to being completing the process through Jefferson County and letting I know you all would be going through that process, you would have to be admitted to the graduate school and to the College of Education. And essentially what that means is that your college work would have to have a 2.75 GPA. You would need a current Kentucky teaching certificate, a bachelor's degree, 2 favorable letters of recommendation, interview with faculty, which just means that we would just have a brief discussion, and we're sort of doing that through this whole vetting process with Jefferson County, and then completing the application packet, which is essentially doing all those things that are listed above: submitting transcripts, submitting letters of recommendation, and those types of items.
Excellent. Okay, you want to talk about the steps toward university admission?
Right. So once you go through the application process through JCPS, and Maddie and or Joe will let you know that you have been selected to participate in the program, then you would go through the process of applying through Spalding. Here's the link. It's spalding.edu/apply. You would there's tabs where you would apply for the graduate program, the Master of Arts Teacher Leadership, and the application. And there's also important here, there's a code that will waive the application fee. It's normally $30 for an individual to apply for the program. And we'll make sure that we update this slide so you have that as well. But that JCPS 2Rev in all caps will enable you to do it. But I think Maddie can talk a little bit about how that process is going to work with regard to individuals or school teams being accepted.
Sure. So we released the application last week. We'll send that out again to everyone at the conclusion of our meeting tomorrow. And for our Spalding applicants, that application is due May 28th. And our goal is to communicate back to everyone who is being recommended for the Spalding program in the days after that application deadline on May 28th. So very soon after that deadline, we'll be communicating that back out.
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, and once that has occurred, you'll hear from me representing Spalding to walk you through this process. So you don't have to really worry about the admission step at this point. Just get the application part to JCPS, and then we will send you and sort of guide you through into this individually. There have been a few of you who've already applied, which is fine. We placed a hold on those applications until we hear from JCPS on whether or not to continue processing those applications.
And a question from someone in the chat I want to make sure we say to everyone. In the agreement that we ask folks to sign stating that you'll stay in the district for 3 years and complete the program, there are some process pieces about if you leave the district, what might be your responsibility at that point. There is a proration formula for how much of those 3 years you actually completed versus how much you didn't. And so all the details are in that agreement.
Excellent. Who wants to talk about the candidate information survey? Maddie, maybe you?
Now this is our internal application. Yes, of course. Okay, so because JCPS is investing $6,000 per participant, we want to make sure that we're populating the cohort with participants that are really interested in this work, going to be here for at least 3 years, so we can see a return on that $6,000 investment. And so this survey is our internal JCPS application. This is kind of the first step of your application to the program. And in addition to questions about, who you are and what school you're from and that kind of thing, there are dispositional questions. Why you're seeking this certification, what are your thoughts on learner-centered education, things like that. And then just to talk a little bit about the selection criteria, we're prioritizing diversity in every sense of the word, because our goal is to empower this vanguard of highly trained educators and competency-based education to help us lead this shift. We need people from every facet of the district so we can see the whole elephant. So we want folks from the school, we want folks from the district, we want classroom teachers, we want ECE teachers, we want elementary, middle, and high school teachers, we want CTE teachers. We really want to achieve diversity in every sense of the word with this cohort, again, so that we're able to see all parts of the elephant when we're helping the district to make this shift towards competency-based education in schools and across the district, and even in professional learning for adults.
Excellent. So people can get these links through this document at the end of tomorrow, and or directly from you, Joe, Alan, I'm assuming.
Yes, so we
Yes.
sent this out to everyone that signed up to attend our general interest session and our interest sessions with our partners here at Spalding and also with UK. If you didn't receive that, you're welcome to access it in this slide deck that'll be sent out tomorrow. You're also more than welcome to email Joe McKim or myself directly, and we will make sure you have everything you need to apply.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Glenn, you want to talk about the certification options?
Yeah, this is an important part of the number of questions have come up. So after the first 15 hours, you'll receive just a certificate from the College of Education that you completed the first 15 hours. It's important to note that this program is a specialization. It is not a teaching endorsement. The EPSB does not recognize CBL as an area that requires a teaching endorsement or a teacher certification. I think it's important just to note. So this is a specialization. It's a Master of Education in Teacher Leadership with a specialization in CBL. So after 15, that's just a certificate completion. Then after the second 15 hours are completed, you have two options here. You can receive a Master of Education for a rank 2, or you can receive your rank 1 through EPSB and also receive the master's. So if you have a rank 3 or a rank 2, we can accommodate that. If you have a rank 2 or a rank 1, we can accommodate that. If you already have a rank 1 and you're interested in some potential future leadership options, we can also transfer 12 hours of this program into our MED and Instructional Leadership School Principal Program. We can transfer 12 hours in, link you in the future to our Aspiring Leaders Program, and you can take 12 of those 30 and apply it toward a principal certification. We have I think 3 candidates in the current group who are moving forward into Aspiring Leaders as a result of doing that.
Excellent, thank you, Glenn. All right, so I think that concludes kind of the slides. Please, Joe.
Yeah, so I just want to, looking at the 15 hours where you'll get that certificate of completion in competency-based education, while EPSB is not recognizing that as an endorsement or anything like that, JCPS internally is recognizing that as something significant. So it will impact, like as Maddie was saying, your ability to influence in our district, because JCPS sees that as pretty significant. That's why they're investing the $6,000. But there was a question earlier in the chat around that 15 hours and that certificate going other places around the state or out of the state. That's not something that anybody requires. It's not a certificate, again, that EPSB, or it's not an endorsement. It's not something you put on your, teaching license to take with you to Alabama or wherever you might be going. But it does have value within JCPS, which is why JCPS is putting the value of dollars behind it.
Excellent, thanks, Joe. Super important point. Yeah, lots of transferability and recognition within the district itself. All right, I'm going to open it up. I see that folks still have lots of questions. I'm curious if there are questions folks want to verbalize at this point or drop into the chat because they still haven't been answered. Want to make sure, again, the objective is to answer all your questions to the best of our abilities right now.
There were some Spalding specific questions that I want to make sure everyone hears. We got a message in the chat asking if a participant decides to pursue the full master's degree beyond that first 15 hours, does Spalding offer a price match of other higher higher education institutions for that last 15 hours?
As far as a price matching other universities, no, our tuition rates are established currently for the 2021-22 school year. The tuition rate is $405 per credit hour. So that would be the rate that we will be that we would charge for the second 15.
Yeah, and just speaking from the research that Joe, Alan, and myself were doing in forming these partnerships, this is an extremely economical rate. We're very happy with the rates that Spalding offers to us and offers widely across, you know, their student body. Another Spalding specific question, Dr. Beatty already answered it in the chat, but I want to make sure that everyone hears the answer and that it's in the recording. Does this or could this lead to a doctorate?
And currently there are no transfers or links into doctoral work at this time. And that's not to say that another institution would not take those credits, but as far as a doctorate at Spalding, currently no.
And then another Spalding specific question, what if I already have a master's of education in education leadership? And again, I know that this was answered in the chat, but I want to make sure everyone hears there.
Right. Yeah. So the item there is that this is a Master of Education in teacher leadership, which is different than the instructional leadership degree. So it is a different degree, and that sometimes becomes a question in colleges because you cannot receive 2 degrees in the same area. So it is a different degree.
A lot of the other questions we talked about throughout the presentation. We have had a lot of questions around certification, so I just want to, you know, just beat this horse until it's absolutely decomposed. The attainment of this first 15 hours, this certificate, does not in itself result in the opportunity for a rank change. However, if you go beyond the first 15 hours and complete the full master's that Spalding is offering, again, JCPS will fund the first 15, participants are responsible for the second 15, but once that 30 hours, that complete master's program is finished, then participants are able to pursue a rank change.
And the other piece to add is that after the first 15 hours, you will sit, if you're eligible for the plus 15 boost if you don't have that already. So if you have a rank 3 and you complete the 15, then you can complete a form and get a boosted pay for the rank 3 plus 15. If you have a rank 2 and you complete this, the first 15, you can complete a form for JCPS and receive a salary increase for rank 2 plus 15. And we complete that for you. You send the form to me, I sign it, send it to JCPS HR, and they complete that for you as well.
And just a bit of, we are getting some kind of like comparison questions in the chat. The other pathway that JCPS is offering is with UK. And again, just very quickly, with that partnership, the completion of that program does result in a rank change, but the unit of credit is PD. So that is not stackable. It is not transferable. The unit of credit is just PD on that one. With the Spalding option, what we're paying for concludes in that first 15 hours. Participants can pursue the full master's, but those 15 hours, the unit of credit is graduate credit. Those are transferable. Those are stackable. So I just wanted to put that distinction out there for everyone as well.
Great. We are coming up on the end of time. Why don't we hang out if folks want to kind of ask any final questions or yeah, just ask them verbally or in the chat. But I want to thank everybody for the time, for the interest. There was a slide in here that I'll pull in with Glenn and Maddie's information as point people, but we're more than happy to chat with you. There's some programmatic questions I'm seeing about kind of workload, course load, how do we show our work, you know, individually and as a team. those are all really, really valid questions. We've got really thoughtful answers, but I want to respect everyone's time. So if you'd like to hang out for a few minutes, we can definitely speak to those.
Yeah, and our partners at Two Revolutions and Spalding have been super generous in offering to answer, personal questions. Adam's contact info is in the chat. You can contact myself or Joe if you'd like to be connected with our partners at Spalding to have conversations specific to what you bring to the table in terms of graduate credits, things to transfer in, your own career aspirations, etc. So all of our partners are willing to have those personalized conversations with everyone as well.
I hear a younger student in the background. All right, well, thank you all. We hope that this is an opportunity that is of interest and can make sense for you. I know you're solving for both of those things. First of all, will this help me? And second of all, how might I pay for this? And how will this help me kind of grow in my earning, et cetera? So both of those are really relevant. And all of these materials hopefully allow you to answer both of those questions.